Okay, so up until now, when you've wanted to solve a quadratic equation, you have had to either factorize or complete the square. So what we'll do is we're going to do a quick example of both of those, and then I'm going to show you a new technique. Okay, so let's say that we have the formula x squared plus, let's keep it nice and easy, 10x plus 24 equals 0. Let's say that we've got this equation. All right, we can firstly solve it by factorizing. That is almost always the easiest way, and you should always try this first. So let's firstly look at factorizing. So we can factorize. All right, and to do that, you just put it into brackets. All right, so we know we're going to have brackets. It's going to be x and then x plus something. Okay, two numbers that multiply to give 24 and add to give 10 are 6 and 4. So we can go x plus 6, x plus 4 equals 0. So x plus 6 equals 0, or x plus 4 equals 0. X is minus 4, or x is minus 6. Okay, so that's how we can solve it by factorizing. All right, we can also solve this by completing the square. So complete the square. Okay, so in this case, we think of what b over 2 is. I'll just do it over here. B over 2 is 5. Okay, 10 divided by 2 is 5. All right, so we have x squared plus 10x plus 5 squared minus 5 squared plus 24 equals 0. All right, we put this into brackets. We get x plus 5 squared minus 25 plus 24 equals 0. Then we're going to have x plus 5 squared minus 1 equals 0. All right, should have my equals lined up. Okay, then we move the 1 to the other side. So we have x plus 5 squared equals 1. All right, we take the square root of both sides. So we're going to have x plus 5 equals the square root of 1, and that's 1. Or x plus 5 equals the negative square root of 1, so negative 1. All right, I'm taking shortcuts. I should be writing this out fully, but I'm a little bit lazy right now. And then that gives us x is equal to minus 4, or x is equal to minus 6. Okay, so we've solved it in two ways now. All right, and you can see both ways work perfectly fine. Okay, and they also give us a nice answer. Okay, you get the same answer both ways. You can clearly see though that factorizing is quicker if you can do it. Okay, so please try to factorize first because it will save you a lot of time. Now, there is also another method, all right, and that's using what we call the quadratic formula. Okay, so we're going to look now quickly at the quadratic formula. Okay, so we have the quadratic formula. Now, this formula, you will just need to learn it from your head, okay, and it's important that you learn it as soon as possible, otherwise you're going to have problems. Now, it's actually, it can be made up of two parts. So we teach it as being made up of two parts because we're going to use part of it separately later. Okay, so when you want to find x is equal to negative b plus the square root of d over 2a. Okay, or x is equal to negative b minus the square root of d over 2a. All right, this is the quadratic formula. Now, firstly, we need to know what d is. Okay, your b and your a, you can read that out of your formula, but we also have this thing that is d, okay, and that's important as well. And d is what we call the discriminant. Okay, and we will talk in the next video about what that means. We'll talk about what the discriminant means and what it does for the formula, okay? But for now, d is the discriminant, and its formula is b squared minus 4ac. Okay, So this is the quadratic formula. You need to learn D, which is here. Okay, and I'll write D again there. So you need to learn the discriminant, and you need to also learn your values of x. So x is negative b plus the square root of d over 2a, and x is negative b minus the square root of d over 2a. This is the quadratic formula. Okay, now, how do we use this? Okay, so let's say that we have our formula, and we said our formula was x squared plus 10x plus 24 equals 0. And it's again important that it is equal to 0. If your formula is not equal to 0, you cannot use this. All right, and we know in this case that we have a, b, and c, and in this case a is 1. All right, so firstly we always start with the discriminant. So d equals b squared minus 4ac, and write the formula out all the time, okay, because we need to see what you're doing. I expect this from you this year. I also expect it from you next year. Okay, now b was 10, so we have 10 squared minus 4 times a is 1 and 24. Okay, so b squared is 100 minus 4 times 24 should be 96. Is that right? Okay, so we have 196 minus 96 is 4. So in this case, our d is 4. So now we also need to calculate our x, okay, and we're going to use the formula up the top for that. Now, again, write the formula out. X equals negative b plus the square root of d over 2a, or x equals negative b minus the square root of d over 2a. All right, now we can just plug our numbers in. Okay, so we said b was 10, so we have negative 10 plus the square root of d, and d was 4. We just calculated that over 2 times a is 1, so over 1. All right, and x is equal to negative b, so again negative 10 minus the square root of 4 over 1. And I'm not sure I said 1. Those 1s are supposed to be 2s, because 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so now we can simplify this. All right, so we have negative 10 plus the square root of 4 is 2 over 2, and we also have negative 10 minus 2 over 2. Okay, what's negative 10 plus 2? That's negative 8 over 2, or negative 10 minus 2 is minus 12 over 2. Okay, so we get x is equal to minus 8 divided by 2 is minus 4, or x is equal to minus 6. Okay, and it's really important you write those x's in at the end. All right, now this is the quadratic formula. Okay, as you can see, this was a hell of a lot longer than either of the other two methods. Okay, it was a lot longer than factorizing, and it was a lot longer than completing the square. Okay, for this reason, we don't always recommend using it. It's up to you. Unless we specify otherwise, it's up to you whether you want to use this method or not. Okay, factorizing should always be your first option in any case, because it is almost always quicker. Okay, but if you can't factorize, you now have another tool that you can use. So if you don't know how to complete the square, or if you don't like completing the square, then you can use this method instead. All right, so this is an alternative for completing the square. You should still try to factorize as your first option, okay, because factorizing is always the best option. Now, as I said, D, the discriminant, we are going to use in more detail later. Okay, so this is something we will do later. What you should also do is make sure you do try to finish things off as nicely as possible here, but keep in mind that if we say that the question is to be in exact form, and to be honest, that's most of the time now, most of the time we want you to answer in exact form, this means no decimals. Okay, so this means that what we want to see at the end are the fractions and the roots as they are. Okay, but you should still try to simplify those as much as possible. The chapter on simplifying roots, I believe, comes after this one, so we will do more work on simplifying roots later, but if you're not sure about that, you can also go back and revise what we did in year 2, and there should be a video for that online. I will put the link in the YouTube comments so that you can also find, or the YouTube information, so that you can also find the revision of how to simplify roots. Okay, good luck. It doesn't get harder than this, but you do need to be careful with your negatives. You need to be super careful that you are using your negatives correctly when you use the quadratic formula, but otherwise it's perfectly fine to use now that we've taught it to you. Okay, but you should try to factorize first, because factorizing is so much faster, and by using the quadratic formula instead of factorizing, you will waste a lot of time on a test. Okay, good luck.